Okay, good. Hello, and welcome to the first episode of the Designary Podcast. We're so glad to have you here from wherever you're
Thank you.
joining from. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Yeah, so Designery Podcast, like you already know, if you've seen our post on social media, is a podcast to help you grow, to ensure you're never stuck in your career paths in work or whatever you're doing as a designer. We are here to ensure that you keep making progress and growing as a designer. In our very first episode, we are tackling a very interesting topic, which is common mistakes that product designers in the very early stage of their careers make. And we have a very interesting guest, the person of Victor. I know he's going to introduce himself and speak more, but we have Victor Owuda, who is the, hope I didn't murder your name now. Okay, so who is the design director or the director of research and design with Reliance Health. And also with me here is Raphael Uzoagba, who is the product designer. So he's my co-host for the podcast. So yeah, as audience join in, we are going to continue. Then as more persons join in, we'll take their questions as we have them in the chat. Meanwhile, we have some questions here for our guest, but let's let him introduce himself. So Victor, let's meet you. Tell us about yourself and how
Okay.
excited are you to have
Um,
this session today?
Hi everyone. Good evening. Thank you, Kutajbaba and Raphael, for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. Please confirm that you can hear me loud and clear.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Okay,
we can hear you.
fantastic. So it's a
glad
pleasure
to
to
have
be
you.
here. So about myself, you already know my name. No, you did not murder my son did. I'm a designer. I've been doing that for over 10 years now, and started off with brand and marketing, and then I think fast forward to 20 something ish, I ventured into product full time. Still do brand on the side every now and then, but more focused on product work. Interestingly, first venture into product was as far back as 2014 when I was in school. It wasn't called product design. But the term UI/UX wasn't really famous, I promise you that. I think we're trying to build a product then for university students, but that wasn't successful. However, fast forward to 2017, I've been doing product work, worked at agencies, worked at different startups, deliver products across different industries. And now I am at Reliance Health leading design and research. So again, it's great to have you here. It's great to be here.
Thank you,
I almost
Victor.
use my host tone saying it's great to have you here.
Yeah. So I think some point down the line, we're going to introduce what you do. Also, Designer is a platform for our guests to also promote themselves, tell us about what they do, their services, and also, yeah, that's one way we give back to those who come to share their knowledge with us in the podcast. So right about now, we are going to dive in. I can't see anybody yet in the waiting room, but I'll just go on. So yeah, Victor, we know you've been a product designer for years now. Can you tell us a bit about your first few years as a product designer, what it was like starting out, just a little summary about your journey?
So my journey, interestingly, it wasn't really called product design when I started my journey. I think, like I said, it's as far back as 2017, 18, yeah, around that period. And I was working at an agency, a digital agency. It's called Dream Mesh, right? Interestingly, I was one of the people that designed one of the first um, fintech products. I led efforts to
Really?
build a fintech product called Money Bag, and that was around the period where I don't think Carrywise or Piggy Bank then existed. Or maybe it existed and I wasn't aware of it. So I led efforts to design Money Bag and it gained a lot of traction, a lot of people signed up, and then I left at some point. I also redesigned the website at the company, delivered a couple of other products, and then from there, I think I took a break to do NYSC, and then I came back. After I came back, I joined STES. But also, I've been working with different people freelancing to design products. I have a mentor of mine that was basically sending projects to me every now and then, pending where while I was in the job market. After a while, I
Yeah.
came back to the job market, there was nothing more. So I was sending projects to me every now and then to basically keep me afloat. And we sort of had a partnership of some sort. And I think I joined STES 2020, February 2020.
4 years
It
ago.
was I was actually five. I was a STES for uh 2 almost 3 years leading design, did the mobile app, revamped the the media platform. I led, I think, a team of 3 designers there, and we're very small. I was one of the first employees there. And then
Wow.
after Stairs, I got to lead design and come to think of it, since 2020, I've been doing a lot of leading teams. Right? In 2020, yes, 2022, I left Stairs and then I joined a US company that was into crypto and Web3. I was leading a team of 4 there, one Nigerian, one European and one American, right? And then did that for almost a year. And then also between then when I left this and then I also worked at Simfix, right? I can tell you categorically that I delivered some of the biggest products in Simfix today. And one of the products
Wow.
that I delivered, I felt sad when they faced it out. It was got verified. So very really sad. So then after that I joined the US company.
Yeah.
I joined Field Intelligence. It's based in Abuja. I was my first venture into health tech. Right. It's essentially it digitized the entire supply chain of medical products. And I was privileged to build a platform that is very critical to the Nigerian federal government, where it managed distribution of malaria, HIV and AIDS, tuberculosis, family planning, like 5 core areas of health in Nigeria. Manage distribution of drugs nationwide. I was privileged to contribute to building that product. Then after that, I worked at Simplified IQ for a bit, and then I got to basically build an AI embedded edtech. Right. So to summarize it, I've worked across different
Wow.
industries, different markets, and in different places. So I sort of have different words of experience.
Looking at how your career is quite illustrious. Like you have literally done from health tech, ed tech, fintech. That's interesting. How did you find it? Transitioning from one place to another. Like how was it easy? Was it for you to adapt?
That's a very good question, actually. So, in some ways, there's certain things that are consistent, right? Things like process, tools. A lot of tools, especially startups, use Slack. I think
Yeah.
this is the first time I'm joining and they use Teams. I can promise you that.
So
Okay, so I'm saying that my current workplace, Science, is the first company I know that we use Teams. Every other startup or company I worked at, they use Slack. That is one thing. So tools are consistent. As long as tools are consistent, communication is easy. And communication is easy. It's easy for you to adapt. And some of them also use conventional tools like obviously there's Figma, there's Microsoft Office. In a lot of cases, they actually use Google tools, right? So again, the consistency in the tools, in the approach to things has helped me to be able to transition, right? And it helps me to be able to understand. Well, back to your question, Kutajbaba, there are a couple of things that I missed when you're asking them. So maybe you want to
Yeah, so I
rephrase.
was asking about, sorry, Nigeria happens to me, so I was thrown out by the network. So my question was, yeah, so are there specific habits or mindsets that you think? So let me rephrase this now. So coming into the space as a designer, there are certain stories you would have heard, there are certain things people would have said, right? So those things definitely will create a narrative and will influence the mindset of designers. So were they, what are those mindsets, those habits, those thoughts that you think that inhibits the growth of designers when they when they start or when they get into the design space? So it's more like a mindset thing, or yeah,
Good question. I'll tell you from my experience,
yeah,
right?
sure, sure.
One, one of the few things that I've heard that sort of was probably going to limit me, or the idea of the fact that there was a limit to what a designer could be, right? In terms of the cap. Or I found out about the idea of chief design officer, right? Which was at Apple. And then before a lot of other companies started to inherit it. I always had this mindset of maybe after I become a senior product designer or a design lead, that's it. Even though I occasionally thought about the idea of becoming a CEO, but I wasn't motivated because there weren't a lot of design CEOs until I came across Airbnb guy, I can't remember his name now, who is a design CEO.
Okay,
That's one. The fact that there is a limit to what a designer can be in the company. That is a lie, a blatant lie. There is no limit. If you do well, if you balance your knowledge of business and of design and apply that to business and facilitate growth, you will grow to become a CEO. I can promise you that. That's one. The
okay,
second thing is that the idea that The idea that you, how do I put this? The idea that once you start, you hit money. Nah, I don't know. But I feel like a lot of people are
But
beginning to come to the reality of that.
yeah, they
In the
somehow
sense
use
that,
that as a catch to get you into this space.
first of all, people used to say some stuff like tech is the new oil. The truth is, I'm not entirely sure tech is the new oil. And I'll tell you why. I'm going to digress a bit.
Okay.
There's a company called Saudi Aramco. They're the most valuable company. No, not the most valuable. They are the most liquid company in the world. You should check them out. They are Saudi Arabia's oil company. Liquid in the sense that they have cash, crazy cash, billions of cash. Tech companies don't have that. Tech companies have stock.
Stock.
You know what I'm saying? So today, Apple could be valued. What am I even saying? Think about a month or 2 months ago when this new version of ChatGPT came out. I can't remember the name now. From China. Nvidia
DeepSeek.
stock, DeepSeek. I think Nvidia's valuation went from 3 point something million to 2 point something million. I can't remember the specific number, so I'm not going to call out the number.
Okay.
What I'm trying to drive home is it's called audio money. So, in as much as there is money in tech, no doubt about that, you may not even see the money early on until later in your career. That's number two. The money
Yeah.
is there, but don't think that it is when you jump into it that the money will come. 2 years, 3 years down the line, that is, you may not even see the money. People, you will see the money in 2 years if you're lucky. Other people, 5 years, 6 years, or 8 years before they start to see the money. I'm a living example of that. The third thing that is a mindset or is something that they tell designers that doesn't allow them to have shifts is that they'll tell you that when you design, keep practicing, keep practicing, keep practicing. Practice is good. But I can promise you that practice can only take you this far.
Mm.
Relationship building will take you this far.
Okay.
I'll break it down. You can master Figma. If you don't have solid relationships that create opportunities for you, you just be a master in your bedroom.
True.
It's similar to when people say you should put yourself out there.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that next. Like, what's your thoughts on putting yourself out there?
I'm going to get to that. If you can master Figma, be the best. If you don't have relationships, you don't build relationships. See, people that say designers can't, they have a limit. It's because they've not explored designers taking advantage of relationships. A designer that is so good at his or her work, and then after some time starts, because if you become a design manager, it's not even about your design skills. No, it's your ability to navigate people. And that is where relationships and connections come into play. If they know Bobo, your connection is important, not just everywhere, even in design. Connection is the reason why a company will be going through a period of transition. And
Yeah.
then they need to shed off some people. And there's someone somewhere bidding for you. This guy must stay. Even though you're not the best. Are you
Yeah.
following me?
Relationships. Yeah.
Yeah.
So relationships are essential. So you can practice, no doubt. But at some point, it's all about delivering a solution that works. It doesn't have to be the best solution. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So
The
in
solution
terms of
is if it works, okay.
yeah, I wanted to ask. So in terms of KDA, probably if you can structure them because starting out, right? If you want to start, if you start and you prioritize relationships, well, I think that's will even help you because there are some certain people you would meet and they will shorten your journey, right? Like if you start out by yourself, you may lack resources and you may just be narrow-minded on the things you need to learn, like just focus on Figma or certain resources. So I was going to ask, like, if you can prioritize, okay, should I focus on Figma first and relationship afterwards? But even trying to ask that
Let me
question, I
put it this
realized
way.
that even relationship can even shorten or help you Figma fast.
The only person will you guys understand pages, so I'm gonna use this. The only person will get something for head and they carry for head.
That's deep.
Who says that? The only person will get something for head and they carry for head.
Yeah.
What I'm essentially saying here is be good to the
Yeah.
point where by the time you are forging those relationships, they would see that these guys are happy.
Because you have something of value to offer.
Exactly. If you know Sabi, if you don't know the work and you're leveraging, say, okay, make I do relationship. About your relationship go cast at some point.
I'm going to post this your quote on all our handles. Like it's just too real.
The only person will get something for head that they carry for head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my point again, to answer your question, is that upskill, right? In fact, have a bunch of peers that you can encourage each other to. I'm going to tell you why. There are a lot of people on Twitter these days. I see them, designers. I don't even go to Twitter to look for designers. The mentor of mine who is building a startup, Simplified IQ, or UX, I think some of you are familiar with that. He was talking about how he reached out to a designer online to help him do something. And then this designer was like, I think, 5 or 10,000 or 20,000 followers on Twitter. This designer basically does design training for me. And I reached out to the designer to basically help him do something. Designer charging, I think $500. Said no, wala, I will pay. It's high, but you will pay. He said by the time the designer came, he designed, she did rubbish, pure rubbish. And he thought maybe it was a mistake. And then he told the designer, let's jump on the call. Explain to the designer like a baby. Do this. Said the designer came back and did rubbish. And then I thought it was lying. I saw it was rubbish.
I think my
Now, this
okay, finish.
this person has 20,000 followers, which means she has built relationships, but there may not be substance. Obviously, there is no substance. Do you understand? This person is probably going to be teaching you design thinking, probably going to be teaching you design sprint, how to use it. A fundamental thing, which is understanding what the problem is. That's a very critical thing. Understanding the problem before providing a solution. A lot of people lack it. And as a designer, you can know Figma from God knows when. If you do not understand the problem, you just keep designing and keep pushing pixels. So, again, a person will get something for head
they carry
and
for
they
head.
carry.
Thank you.
So,
So I
yes,
think
learn design first,
Mhm.
relationships will come. In fact, relationship might come automatically. I'm a full advocate of let your work speak for you. But it's just that right now the world is very crowded. So in
Yeah.
some cases you have to put your work out there. But your work is good. Even when you put it out there, people will talk about it.
Okay. All right. So thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, so if you could go back in time, right? So I know you've spoken about the mindset, relationships, and works, but if you could go back in time, what are some mistakes that you made that you think or you want other designers to not repeat?
Good question. One mistake that I sort of made might sound funny and it might lead you to another, which is jumping from one comment to another.
So we are finally having that conversation in this call. Okay, let's have it. Let's have it.
So I've
Yeah.
learned that. Sorry, I keep touching my hair. My AirPods want to remove.
Okay.
So I've heard that Gen Zs, millennials, they feel like if they work briefly from one company, they make good money. Will go to another company, get promoted.
Yeah.
That's how they make money. That is their priority, money. The day it dawned on me that jumping from one company to another, it doesn't work. It's a different case if you're terminated from the company. That's fine. It means you need to fire ballet, upskill, right? And know the kind of job. Because in some people get terminated because they're applying for jobs that are bigger than their knowledge or their experience. But think of it this way. I learned about a guy who lives in Ikoyi. That was when it dawned on me. And this guy lives in Ikoyi. He works for an Australian real estate infrastructure company. He does 19K a month. He lives in Bodlam. Yes, make it shock you. I saw the thing shock me too. I've not met him. I learned about it. He has two cars, he has two properties. And so the person that told me about him asked him that, for a guy, how you take see this work? Show us the way. He said, and he has been doing this since 2021. So don't even try and imagine how much he has made. He said that
2K per month.
Okay, I think he didn't start with 19K, but he eventually got to 19K. And he's
Okay.
still going to get promoted. Now, he said that far back in 2020, he discovered a secret. When a lot of people were applying to different places, he focused on a niche, on a sector, real estate, and he kept improving and applying there till he got it. Think of it this way. A lot of banks that you see, you hear that this executive is leaving this bank to go to another bank.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever wondered why they are bringing in that executive to that bank?
I think one would generally think experience and knowledge.
Good. It's experience. But it's not diversified experience. It is concentrated experience. So when I say don't jump from one company to another, it means that don't jump from across multiple industries. Stay focused. It will be easy for someone who has 15 years of experience in an industry to get a high quality job. Keyword is high quality job, not random job. To get a high quality job. In fact, a random job. Experience matters. But it will be easier to get a high quality job than someone who has gone across different industries and different companies. Because you have expertise and extremely good domain knowledge. Are you following me? So the person is not just jumping around. They are concentrated, they are knowledgeable. Go and check. People that are the C-suite of different companies. Tony Elumelu is chairman of EBA. He became CEO of EBA after spending, I think, over a decade at EBA. Today, if you ask Tony Emilio what is his core, they will say it's investment banking and capital. Obviously, he has investment in hospitality, energy, and oil and gas. But his core is largely investment, banking, asset management, and so on. That's because he has domain expertise there. Today, if someone wants to reach out to me, they can invite him for conferences that are related to that quality. Another
Okay.
example, Mitch, a little bit of into switch. Mitch would be mostly recognized as a domain expert or as an authority in the banking digital infrastructure sector because he carved the niche and the word lambado, he sat down there and basically mastered it. It's the same thing as saying a jack of all trades is what? Master
Master of none.
of none. So one lesson is don't they fly around. You might be increment in salary, no doubt, but no they fly around. Unless your company is not serious. But you can't be flying around 5 companies that are not serious. You're the one that is not serious. Because what that means is you are not being careful with your selection of the company. If you have 5 different companies that you're living with and saying you're not serious, you are the one that is not serious. Because what that means is at some point you have to think about your life and say, I need to carefully think about the companies that I apply to. I'm not going to apply out of desperation. Do you know what I'm saying? So that's
Yeah.
that. Another thing that I would tell the younger me is that being a graphics designer does not automatically makes you a UX UI designer.
Real.
It can qualify you as a UI designer, but that UX is a different ballgame. It's this particular lesson cost me almost 2 years of my career. Obviously, I had experience in those 2 years, no doubt. But it could have, if I had sat down to understood the fundamental of UX, would have accelerated me fast. But because I was using a lot of UI and graphics design knowledge for UX, and it wasn't the same. All right.
Yeah.
So that's another thing. And the third thing is don't design for money. It's the reason why if anybody comes to me today and say, okay, oh, they want me to mentor them, this and that. First question I ask them is this something you want to do for the long run? Are you passionate about it? If you're passionate about it, let's do this. Because there are times when there will not be fuel in your car. Oh. You go waka go office. Oh. You go say you know go. So do it for the passion. Money will come as long as you're
Victor,
conscious of growth.
if you drop this on Twitter, they are going to tear your shirt. They will drag you. They will drag you and drag you and drag you.
So let me tell you this. If I drop that on Twitter and you're going to drag me, those who will take lessons from me will take lessons from it. And I don't care if they drag me or not.
Okay.
The people that understand it in the sense that they've seen it, they've practiced it. And how you know is if you see someone who's been designing for 5 to 7 years, that person is obviously doing for the passion, not the money. But if you see someone that is saying after 1 year, saying, if they say money dated, where the money did, you will not say that money.
Yeah.
For some people, they start with money, they move into passion. But what is important is they discover their passion.
But if you start with money and you don't discover your passion, you can transition, of course.
If you start with money and you don't discover your passion, maybe you have one, what's it called? You have one trust fund somewhere that you can be using for yourself. Because at some point, I can promise you that there is no designer in this world right now that didn't feel like the money they were making wasn't enough, but they were still doing the job. Or at some point, there was no money.
So, anyways, I was always ask, you made a lot of interesting points. One of the things that caught my mind, which is something, to be honest, affected me at some point, is, in fact, maybe even till now, because like I like being a generalist. It's in a lot of times, right? Before I started dishing down to product design, I started as graphic as well. But in terms of diversification, even as a product designer, because the field is wide, at what point, while growing, should one think about, oh, you know what, I've read enough, it's time to focus on one thing. Or sometimes, as you said, man, if you don't have trust fund somewhere, you have to eat. Sometimes clients are coming from different places. You're lucky enough to see a client from somewhere here. You're lucky to see a job from somewhere here. So how do you make that decision to say, you know what, it's enough? And where I am is like I need to focus. What should prompt that decision?
Question. So, at what point? I can't categorically say there is a point. That's the truth. How I made the decision is very simple. I learned to differentiate what I love to do from what I don't like to do. It's as simple as that. What this means is that I can love to design, I may not like to test. I can love to test, I may not like to design. For some people, it could be I can love to research, I may not like to design. At that point, because at the early stages, you're trying out different things, they're giving you different tasks, and this doesn't even apply to design. They're trying out different things, they're giving you different tasks, and you're trying to discover which one you enjoy doing the most. In some cases, you don't even actively look out for it. You just know that this work where this my boss give me, I know enjoy it.
Yeah.
And then if you realize that they don't want to give you the work that you begin to enjoy, you've communicated it. Sometimes people will leave and go look for the place that has the work that they enjoy. and then they begin to do that more and more and more. Fundamentally, it's a case of what exactly, you need to ask yourself the question, what exactly do I enjoy doing, right? For some people, they can figure it out early in the university. Sound like when I figured it out early in university, I love to design because I was started off as an artist. For some people, they don't know it yet until after they've had different tasks assigned to them. Now, let me play a bit of devil advocate here. Some cases, you discover it based on the people you work with that make you hate a particular field because of the way they do it with you, collaborate with you, manage it with you, or manage it for you. The manager can make you hate a particular field. And then that immediately forms something in your head that I not fit do this thing. Even though you might be very good at it, which is another angle. Being good at something is not necessarily the same thing as liking that thing. Be clear. The moment you figure out what you like to do, you may not be good at it, but once you figure out that this is what I like to do, you then keep on practicing, practicing, practicing until you are good at it.
Very
Remember, I
interesting
didn't say that.
example.
Yeah, and remember, I didn't say that it's
No, what?
about what you're good at. It's about what you like to do.
Like, yeah. Which
So yeah,
brings me to something, in the end, so what you basically, follow passion first, because that's what's going to propel you when none of the things are there, none of the goodies are there. So follow passion first, which is kind of interesting because product design is more objective than it is subjective. So when you're trying to, build a product, especially when you're just starting out, there's a lot of times, I like this color. You're bringing in that's your design. You're bringing in that your fire. What would you say made, because I'm sure that it's something that almost all of us go through. What would you say made that switch for you, going through your career, that going, data driven, making decisions based on what is has been researched and something that's data backed? What made you, at what point did you make that switch, and how has it impacted your growth ever since?
at the point where I was getting feedback that it didn't make sense to me, I can promise you that was it. If I tell you that I had a dream, and in that dream, sorry, excuse me, I had a dream, and in that dream, God whispered to me that I should prioritize Jesus over myself. I'll be lying. I'll be seriously lying. The point for me where I figured out to detach myself from work that I like and basically prioritize the end users is I got a lot of feedback. And I was fighting some using battles. I'll present this and be like, this looks nice. I think we should do this. And then they'll be like, are you sure? Can you check? And then I'm sitting with 5 different people and they're telling me, no, it doesn't look nice. Is it my eyes? Do you understand? I'm sure we all fall into the trap where you do this and present it to the client. Client is saying, no, 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 this is the way it should be. In some cases, the client are right. Some cases they are wrong. They're right because they know their target audience. And the only way you can basically disprove that is to get the data to disprove it. So I got a lot of feedback that was negating what I was doing. And then I stumbled on a video online that helped me understand that it's not about me.
Yeah.
And it began to make sense. Occasionally, I still fall into that trap of this color is nice, maybe we'll use this color. And I'll keep pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing.
Yeah.
But let me tell you what it does. It hinders progress. Because I'll give you an example. One of the biggest flaws I had, sometimes I still fall into that trap, is especially when I'm building a design system, is if I see a font, I'm a huge fan of fonts. I see a font that is nice, I'll use it. And then I'm browsing and then I see another beautiful font. I'm done with that work, waiting for an RGB, and then I swap the font again. And then they started building the work, we started using the component, and then I see another font. And then the first mistake I make is I start to test the font in the components. It looks really nice. And I start pushing it. Alpha, what do you guys think? Should we try this? Should we try that? And then you keep changing and changing. You see what you're doing, you're going around in circles without results. So I stopped doing that and focused on art and understanding that it was never about me. I'm not necessarily the end user. But again, the point I figured it out is when I was what basically spurred me is I was getting a lot of feedback that they turned my brain upside down. Like, this is fine. Why don't you people want it? So yeah, that's that.
Yeah. And I like that you mentioned, you're talking about feedback, which is something that a lot of, well, let me know. I know this is something that happens to some designers or a lot of us. Yeah, it affected me. But I want you to let us know how you dealt with, taking feedback, taking the, sometimes some feedback can be so harsh that you wonder, is this the career I'm supposed to be? I'm supposed to be in? So,
Yeah.
what's your advice to people coming on and how to deal with feedback, and also use it to improve themselves?
First off, detach yourself from the work. matter how much effort you put into building that design, detach yourself. You're solving a problem. And if your work doesn't solve the problem has not been solved. Always look at it from the angle of my objective is to solve a problem, no matter how many iterations I have to do. Even if that a particular iteration is God sent, if it doesn't solve that problem, it doesn't. That's number one. Number two is they say something like, uh, nobody can make you feel inferior without your consent. How this applies here is that sometimes the way you present work also matters. If you present work in a way that doesn't allow them to give constructive feedback, they will not give you constructive feedback. So what you want to do is prioritize work that is within scope and present the work for people to see. Also know who you are presenting to, in the sense that there is a way you present to your engineers and it's different from the way you present to business leaders. The way you present to PMs is different from the way you present to the executive team. Executive team is more focused on the outcome on the business. PM is more focused on the feature solving the problem. Engineering is focused on the feature being simple enough for them to build. You have to be able to differentiate between the three so that you get feedback that are concrete. You don't want to interpret your executive team as those that will give you feedback around if the feature solves the problem. And then they are telling you, what is this? What's this nonsense? How does this benefit me? How can we make money? And some people can be rude. Now, bear in mind that ability to give feedback is one thing. Ensuring that you don't fall into the trap of getting terrible feedback is another thing. Some people are just blatantly rude. If someone is rude to you about feedback, it's your responsibility to tell them, Oga, your feedback was rude. It's not about me, it's the work. The same way you're detaching yourself from the work, also let the person attach themselves to the work and not insult you. Don't tolerate that. That's one side. But also know the kind of people you're working with, enough to know the kind of presentation and feedback that you expect from them. So yeah, that's it.
That's amazing. Well, about we're about close to wrapping up, but just I want very two important question. I know that it's going to, it's something that coming up we all need to learn, especially in today's environment. Very dynamic, very fast paced. Especially with the since the assumption, the creation of the AI, coming up and everything. How as an entry level designer, what are those things that you need to do to stand out? Like what are those things you need to do to stand out in today's very fast paced, technologically advanced market?
That's a very, very critical question. What can you do to stand out? Number one is own your craft. Let's start from there. Know what you know how to design. Do you understand?
Mm.
Know how to design. Not just design to solve problem. Oh. When I say know how to design, I'm not saying you know how to paint, use a font or use a color. Your design should solve problems. If you're designing and it doesn't solve problem, you're not designing.
Mm.
Design to solve problem. That's one. Number two is build right relationships.
Mm.
When I say build relationship, it doesn't mean you should have relationship with everybody. As a designer, ask me, unless you're solving a problem for someone that is selling akara, what kind of relationship do you want to have with the person? But let me put it this way. Unless you're solving a problem for someone that is selling akara, what kind of work relationship do you want to have with the person? You want to be telling the person about
Mm.
Figma. You Figma sell the akara for the person. Is Figma a type of akara or beans cake for the person?
Yeah.
So build right relationships. Two, because they're the ones that will sell your work. Number three is be consistent.
Okay, thank you so much for that. So, in summary, just ensure that you have the mindset and the willingness to grow. Yeah, let's wait a bit because I think Victor has been giving us gems. So I'm
And
waiting for the
then
next quote is going to give us before we wrap. Yeah, so Raphael, Victor just reached out to me that he's having issues joining back. So I think at this point we can just wrap up and call it a day for our first episode. Yeah. So Raphael, just help us close out on this episode. Yeah.
yeah, so far it was a very interesting episode. Mistakes mentioned the mindset you should have really as a designer. Talk about building relationships. Very important. Quite more important than build your craft. What was that thing he said
Yeah.
again? Now who get head
Who
then they
gets
carry
something
for
for
head.
head? They carry for head. Yeah.
Get something for head everything to be honest because yes you have a relationship but if you don't have what to offer value to offer in that relationship you're not
Yeah.
going to make the most of that connection all in all and then he mentioned that one of the most important mindsets is to know that you want to grow and if that statement about just wanting to grow there's so much part in because again tied into one thing he mentioned about passion as against coming in because you want to make money, because you've heard, oh, product designers are making, tech work money. You need to be able to balance expectations with reality, right? And that means that if you're not coming in because you actually enjoy it and you're expecting to cash out very, you quickly get frustrated and you leave it. You leave the industry, or you won't even make as much an impact as you're supposed to make. So putting all those together, these are things that will help you grow as a designer. These are things that will make you, I think that's supposed to help you, become more of a professional in the field that you're in. That being said, it is time that we wrap up. It's been a very interactive conversation. I hope you enjoy it. Forgive the small
Okay.
lag here and there. We're still fixing up, we're still learning how to use this platform, right? We promise in the next episode is going to be way smoother. For
Yeah.
those who could not join us because of one issue or the other, you can watch the recording on our YouTube. You can watch it on our YouTube, the full episode. I think you can also watch it on
LinkedIn. Yeah, still on
the
LinkedIn.
links will be there. We're also going to drop the link for. We're also going to drop link for Victor. You guys can follow him on his LinkedIn. He also has a very beautiful and interesting podcast called 0 to 1, and there he's talking about design leadership and how big design can be in impacting organizations. It's amazing. It's amazing. Something that every one of us should watch, even no matter what level you're in. There's something for you on there to learn from. We're going to be watching, and we're going to be, in the next couple of weeks, 2 3 weeks, next 2 weeks, we're going to be coming on another episode. Just basically, follow us on all our social media to get updates. We're going to be dropping the links to all our social media on when this is uploaded. Just follow us. The more engagements we see, the more we're going to be encouraged to bring in all these things that are going to help you grow as a designer, help all of us grow, honestly, because we constantly learn and everything. So you can follow us everywhere on social media, Instagram X, sorry, I still call it Twitter, TikTok, everywhere as designer studio, just designer HQ. So
Thank you, Raphael. So yeah, you've heard it all from Raphael, and also Oladayo. I see your message, right? You just transfer from graphic design to UI UX designer. So I'm glad that you found the session very impactful and very helpful. Somehow, apparently, I feel like there are lots of people who joined in, but for some reason, Riverside is not showing us, so I can't really see the number of persons who are here. But it's quite evident that there are people who are following us. So thank you so much for joining. See you in our next episode in 2 weeks. So for now, peace out. Have a lovely day. Enjoy your night rest.